Finding your path. Talking careers on Off Script.
We are talking exactly that, and we're talking it with Zach Holtz, who is the author of the Happiest Teacher blog. He is a teacher at the American College.
Universal American School.
Universal American School. I'll get it right eventually. Universal American School.
That wasn't even close.
I know.
At the American College.
I just reached for that. I started with American, and then I realised, hang on a minute, I've already screwed this up.
We got there in the end.
We got there in the end. But more importantly, you talk about finance, you talk about life in general on your Happiest Teacher blog, Zach.
Absolutely. And, today I'm going to talk a bit about side hustles. But I'd like to start with what Sonal was talking about in terms of being a compulsive learner. This is, to me, the best way to start a side hustle, because what you do is you build what's called a talent stack. And a talent stack is when you have a skill that you like and then you put something else on top of it. And this comes from the guy that created Dilbert. And basically he said, I'm kind of funny and I can kind of draw. And I've lived in the corporate world, so I can put all those things together and I can make this comic strip. And now it's one of the most widely syndicated things in the world. Yeah.
So are you suggesting with all these little things that I've picked up, not even to a significant degree, I can put them together and try to do something with them?
Absolutely.
So my photography hobby that I sort of pick up my camera once in a blue moon, but I basically know how to work a camera.
Sure. Well, basically, it's not about being the best in the world at one thing. It's about being pretty good at 3 or 4 things that you can then combine to do something else. And photography is a great one for that. And that's actually been one of my side hustles over the years.
I saw
How many? Oh, sorry.
No, go on. I also noticed you play percussion.
I do. I'm in 2 bands. That's another one of my side hustles. And we gig around Dubai and Abu Dhabi and the UAE.
How many side hustles do you have, and how did you get started with all of them?
Well, it depends on the time in my life that you asked me that question, because my talent stack has grown a lot over the years, depending on where I live and who I'm around and what I'm obsessed with. And obsession is the other key to me to getting a great side hustle. Is you become obsessed with whatever it is you're interested in. Like for now, I'm totally obsessed with personal finance and have been for the last couple of years, and it has led me into amazing opportunities like this one right here. But if you combine that obsession with the other skills, like I'm also a writer and have been for a long time, and I'm an English teacher, so I combine that to make my blog. And also, I like being on stage, which comes from percussion, and being a teacher as well. You have to be able to engage and hold an audience. And so, like I was a moderator at a forum for bankers and professionals last week, and all those things came together, and I really enjoyed it. And being here on the radio, I feel very comfortable because of all that performance.
And you talked about playing percussion as a side hustle, which means you're actually making some income
Absolutely.
for it. I think a lot of people would see that kind of thing as a hobby. So what's the difference between, or I guess what sort of hobbies should people start to consider the potential for money making in?
Yeah, well, I'm always a big believer in monetizing your interests. If you can get paid for doing the things that you really enjoy, then it's fantastic. So it depends on where you are and what the opportunities are around you. For me, I have got in contact with some amazing musicians here in Dubai through open mics and through some friendships that I already had, and they needed percussionists. And so started playing with them. And I've played percussion since I was about 10. So, I've got 2.5 decades of percussion experience in one form or other. So that helped a lot. And, now, I've gotten to play in front of the Burj Khalifa, and I've played at festivals all over the city, and we're playing at Step Conference this week coming up. And, it's gotten me to see a whole lot of fantastic parts and meet wonderful people.
Do you consider it important would you advocate that everyone has a side hustle?
I think so. Here's the thing. You need to diversify your life just like you do your investments. And so if one part of your life goes south, you have other parts of your life that can pick up the slack, whether it's an income stream or just a source of happiness. Both of those things are equally important, and you should hopefully get both of those things from your side hustle, both income and a fulfilling of either a creative pursuit or an entrepreneurial pursuit or a physical pursuit that you like.
How do I turn playing extremely mediocre tennis and mediocre golf into a revenue stream?
You're better than mediocre at both of those things.
Is that impossible?
Let's say moderate.
Yeah.
Mediocre is harsh.
I mean, you could become a coach, or you could start lessons for people. You could get a group together that does it on the weekends, and you could organize a tournament or a league even, all these things.
I totally could.
I could get a group together
totally
of
could.
people that want to learn golf. Would you teach us? How much would you charge?
I feel a bit embarrassed because I'm not. You need to be getting it from a qualified professional.
Well,
and I'm not one of those.
Just focus on beginners.
Focus on beginners.
How do you
yes.
know, on that point, so let's say Robbie is going to do this. He's going to teach me golf and I'm going to pay him money for this.
Sure.
How much do you know how to charge when you're doing this on a sort of
As
freelance
much
basis?
as you can possibly get out of whoever it is. That includes you.
I mean, it helps if you price what your competition is and then come underneath it. And if it's a side hustle, you have this huge benefit. And it's kind of, I don't know how moral it is, but basically you don't have...
Don't worry, we'll play the disclaimer.
Yeah, sure. You don't have to do it as your main source of income. You're not relying on this as your only paycheck, right?
Yeah, you're free rolling.
Exactly. So if you're underneath the bid of the other people by a decent amount, you can build your client base. And from there, that's when you can really raise your prices once you have the experience and the client base and you know what you're doing.
We're in conversation with Zach Holtz. We are talking side hustles, and it's important as we do that we play you this.
Dubai Eye 103.8 presents an array of independent expert opinions and does not advise one particular view. Always seek independent legal advice which considers your own personal circumstances.
There you go. Then nothing against you, Zach, of course,
yeah,
but we
absolutely.
just got to do it for legal reasons.
Of course. So, Zach, we were talking about side hustles, and I think one of the common ways people look to set up a side hustle is maybe setting up a blog and trying to monetize that. Do you have any advice for people, especially in a competitive landscape? How do you build an audience, and how do you then go on to monetize it?
Well, I have a few ideas, but I'm not an expert in this field, definitely. My blog is not monetized, but I have been able to get published in the newspaper where I am paid for that. But basically, you need to be in a field where people are interested in it, and you need to have a authentic voice that helps people. And sometimes there's an idea that you should be polarizing in order to create an audience. So, make people a little bit angry. And then, they'll get talking and they'll share your stuff. And then, you can get the numbers that you need. And it's all about building those numbers. And then you'll get the brands that want to partner with you. And, you get the paid posts and all the sort of stuff where people really make good money these days. So, either that or as a blog or Instagram or Twitter as well.
And what about people who are spending a lot of time, hours in the day on their day job, and they don't have too much time to dedicate to a side hustle? They still want to make some extra cash on the side, though. Are there things they can do that are a little bit more passive? Invest a certain amount of time to set something up and then kind of continually get some passive income from that with low maintenance?
Absolutely. I mean, some of the classic ones are, if you can, buying rental real estate. And then if you have a property manager in there, that's almost as passive as it gets. Or there's other ways to invest in real estate as well, where you're getting dividends or rent checks, and that's super passive. You can set up online courses if you have a skill that you think other people would pay to learn. You can set up online courses. I know there are people out there that make hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, on their online courses, helping people learn valuable skills that they need. And then there's the classics of writing a book. It's hard work to write a book. There's no doubt about it. But after you write it, then you have the opportunity to just sort of sit back and collect your checks. Now, if you know anything about modern publishing, you know that those checks probably aren't for a whole lot, but unless you're Stephen King or J.K. Rowling. So those are some great ways to do it. Also, other things that people do, they'll set up YouTube channels that get really popular, and then the clicks that on videos that are already there, you're still getting ad revenue from that as well.
If you are one of these people that genuinely rejects social media, is it much? I mean, clearly, it's much harder to set up a side hustle because presumably that's the first port of call. Certainly for young people, whether it be just to let people know about what they're up to, or to get well known, or to get notoriety for its own sake via an Instagram account. I mean, that is how a lot of people have been actually making a side revenue these days. It is. I mean, let me tell you a story. When I first started my first side hustle, which was a photography teaching business in Bahrain with my best friend a long time ago, what started for us was we just got obsessed with photography, and we're taking these pictures and learn as much as we could. We'd read or shoot 3-4 hours a day after we got home just because we loved it. And we got a lot better at it, and people would see our pictures and they would come up to us and say, hey, I have this camera, I don't know what to do with it. And these DSLRs that people have, and just they put it on auto because they don't know any better. And basically we had a business that I think he was still running up until last year. So for like 8 years, we were having, just from word of mouth, people would take our course, they would like it, they would show their pictures off, their friends would see it, their friends would say, hey, I want to learn the same thing. And that was, without any sort of social media presence. So it is definitely still possible, but you kind of need to be still a part of a community of some sort, just so people can get the word out.
And so people can see whatever it is you're producing that you want to teach them.
And when it comes to balancing your time, let's say your side hustle is really taking off for you. You're really enjoying it. It's becoming lucrative. Are there ever a situation where then you kind of take a step back in your day job? Is that advisable?
Oh man, I've had that conflict so many times. First time was with photography, and I had the chance to do it professionally, or at least I thought I did. And it was like, should I quit teaching? Should I go photography full time? And for me, it comes down to where do you get the most joy? And I also learned that, I talked to a lot of people who were doing their creative aspect for them as photography full time, and they would not pick up their camera unless they were getting paid. And to me, that can be the danger of really going full bore on your creative pursuit, because it can be something that once you're doing it only for the money, that you lose the joy of it. And then, so that's one of the reasons I like keeping them on the side for me, because I have the thing that I love, which is being a teacher, but then I have all these things on the side, which also bring me joy. But I think if I just had to be a blogger full time, or if I just had to be a musician, that would be such a stressful life for me. And, you have to have that core, but then have the creative stuff on the outside.
If money wasn't an issue, what a life it would be if money was not an issue. We've had so many messages in. David would play professional golf and employ me as caddy. That would probably be the end of your professional golf career if you did that, David. You'd probably be better off carrying your own bag and listening to your own advice rather than mine, as you well know. Raja says, I would listen to the radio show and enter competitions to win prizes. You never know. Keep your fingers crossed there, Raja. And we've got a question in. Do you do private financial consulting? Zach?
Yeah, absolutely.
Zach Holt's our guest, of course. I should reiterate that. Zach is with us for the next 5 minutes or so. We're talking side hustles. My question is that, how do you stick with it? How do you persevere? You've already talked about it's important to be passionate about it. A lot of the problems that people wind up in is that they lose passion and excitement and enthusiasm for their actual day job. But that can't work with something on the side, can it? You have to be passionate about it.
I mean, if you aren't passionate about it, it's going to fade away. You're going to be faced with challenges and frustrations or costs that you don't want to deal with. And then you give it up or you go and do the next thing, right? So for me, for the side hustles and for starting a new business, if you aren't obsessed with it, if you aren't passionate about it, there's going to be 1,000 other people there that are, and they are going to eat your lunch if you're trying to monetize it. But it doesn't really matter, because a lot of times these are not necessarily done just for income. You're doing them because you love doing it. And if you make money at it, fantastic. And maybe that can even turn into a second career or your primary career, and that's great. But even if it doesn't, you're spending time doing what you love. And how is that a bad thing? I mean, that's a fantastic.
And when it comes to work-life balance, let's say you have your day job, you have one or two side hustles, you're really enjoying that. But let's say you need some time for balancing with family, other obligations. What do you have to say about that?
Well, hopefully you can incorporate some of the people you love into your side hustles and share it with them, right? Like, so if you are, let's say, going back to photography or music, something that I know, they can be a model for you, or they can help you run your business if they like that aspect of things, or they can help you book clients, or they can be in your band, or, there's a whole lot of ways that you can incorporate the people you love into it. But then at the end of the day, you have to maintain those relationships if they're important to you. And everybody has a different level of importance to their relationships. But, these things don't necessarily have to take away. They can also contribute.
Dion's messaged in with a question. You may or may not be able to answer this, Zach, but I'm going to put it to you anyway. Is it difficult to start an online trading shop here in Dubai, something like used medical instruments and equipment or watches?
Gosh.
Dion is...
He's got a range of products.
You're keeping things broad for now, Dion. But
I mean, Dubai has Dubizzle, which is fantastic, and you could maybe sell things there. I don't know. I don't know anything about used medical stuff. Like, please do not consider me an expert on that. But, I mean, I have sold stuff on Dubizzle before, and it works. And there's groups on Facebook, and then there's different things I was just reading about. They have it's like on Little Modulus or something like that, or Little something. So,
Little Modulus.
Yeah, Little Modulus. Yeah, and you can get a little online store where all the licensing is already taken care of for you, instead of having to set it up all yourself. So there are options out there, but you just got to check them out and see what works for you and what you can contribute.
You would counsel that social media is the first port of call when it comes to promoting anything that you're up to. Is that when talking about the best way to promote a side hustle? Because, let's say tomorrow I start a podcast, okay? How on earth would I go about promoting that and letting people know that it existed.
To me, and I guess I'm showing my age a little bit here, the best thing that I use for this is Facebook groups. I think Facebook groups are fantastic because you can really connect easily with people who are like-minded and have similar interests. So like I just started my own Facebook group for my blog for the Happiest Teacher, and already we're having great discussions in there. And you could totally find, if somebody had a blog that they wanted to, that was about financial independence, they can go and put those out there on those groups, depending on their rules and regulations. And podcasts are the same way. And, with Twitter, you can do the different hashtags and things like that. But I mean, I think it's all about creating something that adds value to the world. And if you do that, and that can be, something that's very personal to you, but there are going to be other people that are helped by what has helped you and by your information. And if you put that out there and it's good quality, it's going to catch on. And maybe not fast. It could take a long time, but people are going to like it, and then they're going to get value out of it. And then you're going to get a good feedback loop going on with that.
Zach, one last question for you. We have been talking about this side hustle, selling your services to people maybe that you don't know. How do you feel about charging friends? Because I've been in this situation.
No
where
problem with it whatsoever.
I've done services that I would do in a professional environment for friends, writing things for them, that sort of thing. Have you done it? Is it a bit awkward?
I mean, I help people with their writing all the time. I'm an English teacher, so it kind of goes with the territory. And I don't mind it at all. Sometimes it can be that they need the help, and it's something that I can give them. But it depends. Like, am I going to go and play 3 sets of a half an hour each at their party for free? Probably not. Like, I wouldn't do it, and the rest of the people in my band, they wouldn't be super happy about it either. There has to be a barrier, and there has to be a limit, and you have to make sure that you're valuing your own time. If it's something that you want to make money from, if it's something you just love to do and you want to do it because you enjoy every time you get to do that thing, then go do it for free.
Zach, if people want to follow you, how do they do so?
Yeah, thehappiestteacher.com, Facebook group, The Happiest Teacher, and then I'm on Twitter at Happiest Teach, not Happiest Teacher.
There we go. Zach Holtz, author of the Happiest Teacher blog, teacher himself, and of course, finance expert as well. I'm sure we're going to be having you back very, very soon, Zach. Right. But thanks so much for your time today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.